All right, gang. I think I'm live. Let me just do a little checky roo here, just to make sure. Uh, that's the preview mode. Don't need that. Back to live mode. Very good. Okay, excellent. Thank you, gang. Thrilled to have you be here. Let's just if you could let us know in the chat if you can see me, hear me, do all those sorts of things. That would be fantastic as we go forward and we talk about what happened in my week two. And I've documented everything for you, so I want to talk through what happened here today. So, um, this week, of course, was about finishing the first four milestones. And if you were on last week's cliffhanger, you'll know that I was actually, very ironically, struggling with the specific micro niche. And what's interesting about this is that I haven't specifically figured that out, but you will hear um, you will see exactly how I've reconciled with that and doing that. Now, what's cool is I've been using something that people know me as a bit of a tech geek and all those sorts of things, but what they probably don't realize is the vast majority of the work and planning and everything I always do on pen and paper, have done all the time. There's actually some science to back that up for people, certainly of my generation and even millennials. We learnt and were creative first as kids. We were all pen and paper. Now, that may change for Gen Z, but right now it makes a lot of sense, which has always been a challenge when it comes to being able to show you guys my process. But I've been using the good old Remarkable 2 here, which is a fantastic um, it's sort of the best of both worlds. It gives me the sort of like the feel. It feels like writing on paper. It works very good. It only does one thing. It's like a notepad. You can't browse the internet on it or anything like that. And it's something that has worked very well. I know a couple of my mates, Stuart, I think Dean Jackson uses one. It's Hey Tom, good to see you. It's been it's fantastic. So it allows me, for the purposes of this project, it's allowed me to show you guys, even though my world class handwriting is well, it's world class in my mind. I'm not sure if it helps in your mind, but I'm here to translate. So what that does mean is, watch this. Pew! It allows me to actually put up my notes and take you through my working and thinking for the week. So we could have a look at that. And of course, just as a reminder, of course, I'm using the Marisa Murgatroyd Experience Product Masterclass process to come up with a completely new product. And because all the people that decided to work along with me, I had a vote, which is actually quite intriguing when you look at what I did with my market. They they were meanies and asked me. I said, "Hey, do you want me to do a subject that it was a total no-brainer? I had something in mind that I wanted to create a course for." And they said, "No, no, we want to see you suffer." And so, who am I but to please the audience? And sure enough, I'm doing something completely from scratch. And you can see up here in my notes that Web3. That's where, that's what I am doing. I'm doing Web3. And I've written it wrong there because Web 3.0 is not the right way to write it, as I've learnt previous to this. You can see I started these notes, and this is a habit I always got from Gary Halbert. Um, I always date them, and I also always write where I'm doing the notes. It's a little color thing, but it's interesting over the years because from a memory perspective, it often helps to know. It like we associate events with locations, right? Have you ever been to a location and you remember something? It's one of the things we do. And Gary Halbert, I'm not sure if he read the science on it or intuited it, like so much of what he did, was he would always note where he was writing stuff down. So that was something that was interesting. So in EPM, which stands for Experience Product Masterclass, there's it's a very set way. I think it's the best way to create a new product slash course slash service. It's quite amazing. So let's go through and let's see what I did. So my challenge is, here we go, to create an EPM project for launch in Jan 2022. And so that's the goal. And one of the reasons I'm doing this publicly was that for people who decided to join EPM with me this year, I said, look, I'll do it too, and I'll document everything, which is really great. And also, I knew that I needed, as a high quick start, I knew that I needed to have to show up each week to explain what I've been doing and have that deadline so I would actually do stuff. Because in retirement, I realized how, I don't want to use the word lazy, contemplative I had become in this. So it's been, and we'll come back to time in a minute. So the extra challenge was to do it in a niche I'm a total beginner at. And I've put here, I'm an idiot. I would never coach or advise anybody to do this, right? If you've got expertise in a particular thing or a particular niche, that is the much smarter way to go. But for degree of difficulty and for the fun, I thought, what would happen if you literally started from scratch and went through the process? And we'll see how that goes. So, one of the first things you need to do when you are in EPM is that you need to identify the macro niche and the micro niche. Longtime fans will know how important I believe niche selection is, and how important small niche selection is. Right? It's a place to start. It's somewhere where beginners can really struggle with, and it can be a significant issue. Like people, I find, like people will say, I help people over 55 who need more energy. Right, that's a macro niche, right? That's not a micro niche. I'd much rather you say something, to use a silly example, um, real estate agents in Arizona who are struggling with their weight, or need more energy to close more deals. Because here's the thing, right? As soon as I identify, let's keep energy. As soon as I identify real estate agents, and if I was even being more ridiculous as a niche in Arizona, all of a sudden the marketing gets so much better because I can speak their language. Hey, you're finding yourself driving around Scottsdale, and you've got a potential lead, but you just don't have the energy to do it in the day. You want to close that extra couple of deals a month. Do you want to land 2 more listings? See how I'm able to take what low energy is and relay it back to the actual needs as a client. Because most people, when they start, and particularly when they start in something new, they use very generic language like, hey, do you want more energy? Do you feel like you have low energy? Right? And guess what? It's too generic. Everybody will just scroll right past it, right? Because they've got a little box in their head which has low energy and the solution for low energy, and they've probably tried it and it hasn't worked. So this is why micro niche is so important, right? And this was where my problem was, and this is the dilemma I left people hanging with last week. So my micro niche that I talked about last week is, I have been incredibly intrigued by everything that's going on in Web3. Now, you might know and love Web3 from fancy terms like DeFi and NFTs and all of those sorts of things. Web3, to me, has a couple of key things at its core, right? First of all, it's distributed, right? So Rather in and the best way to describe it is just to talk about what Web 2 was and describe the differences to Web 3. All right. So Web 2 was as content creators, which all my, my audience over the years and before I retired was all creators. That's the fancy new term that they call themselves, but really, product creators and early takers of the challenge were the first creators before they called creators, right? That's what people were doing. They were creating courses and they were writing books and they were helping people learn about a particular niche or solve a particular problem. Creators. Now, if you think about it in Web 2.0, what happened? Well, um, what happened is it became very centralized. So around YouTube, around Facebook, around Instagram, around TikTok. And what's happening is all these creators are doing their amazing creative stuff, but who gets the benefit? Realistically, who gets the benefit? Right? It's Zuck, it's the shareholders of those various companies, right? They get pittance, right? Spotify. Let's talk about music, right? Here's something in my research that I came across, which was just astounding to me. You realize there are 8 million artists on Spotify. 8 million artists. Actually, let's go here for me to zoom in. 8 million artists on Spotify. There are only 14,000 artists on Spotify that earn $50,000 or more on Spotify. Let me repeat that. Of 8 million artists on Spotify, there are only 14,000 that receive more than $50,000 in royalty payments. Now, that's not necessarily Spotify's fault, right? That's the system, right? But it is a classic example of what Web 2 is all about. It is centralized, so the people who do the aggregation win. They're the ones who get the money. The promise of Web 3 is that it's very much creator based and through tools like NFTs. I know there's a lot of hype around NFTs at the moment. And when I first, and this is the other part of me selecting this niche, right, was uh, when I first heard of NFTs and cryptocurrencies more generally, but I'm really much more interested in Web3 rather than the cryptocurrencies, as you'll soon see. Um, that was the first time in tech that I had a grumpy old man yelling at the kids to get off my lawn. It made no sense to me whatsoever. It made literally zero sense. And that was the first time in my entire career that I'd had that reaction to a new technology. And it scared me, frankly, because I always thought that I'd be one of these people that would be trying the newest piece of tech and being involved when I'm 90, right? Let alone, when I'm 50 and just, already having get off my lawn kids type feelings about various technologies. So that was that made the degree of difficulty because not only was I uh, new to the market, I was actually actively anti and skeptical the market as well. Um, so the promise of Web3 is two things, right? One is it runs on a decentralized basis, right? So all the infrastructure is shared, and you sort of know this intellectually from if you're aware of Bitcoin farming, right? Bitcoin farming is paying people to maintain the Bitcoin network in a massive distributed way, right? So, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details. You can go to other places like I've been doing all week researching all this stuff. Like I say, I'm no expert. I'm literally trying to figure out. However, the other part of Web 3, I should say. I've got to stop using that point because it's frowned upon. Web 3 is what it means for members of things and what it means for creators. The promise of Web3 is because the infrastructure is distributed, right? And Ethereum which I heard about Ethereum again thought, nah, get off my lawn, smart contracts. What does that mean? Until I realized over the course of my research that smart contracts are apps, right? They're just apps, right? They're apps, and I'm probably going to get told off for saying that they're app, but it helps me understand things. They're apps which run in an automated and distributed way. So once I start the app, it's controlled by the Ethereum network, which is really good, right? Because here's the thing, if I'm running an app, I can manipulate that app, right? I can make changes to the app. Like if you buy an app from me off the App Store, I could easily change all the rules, right? I could easily make all the changes just like Facebook does, just like YouTube does, just like Instagram does, just like, right? How many times have we been Google slapped? How many times have we been blah, 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 right? So the cool thing about this, right, is that once the app is running, if anybody tries to make a change to it, it's clearly in the public, right? And guess what? You can't make a change to it unless everybody who's a member of that network, the majority of them, vote for it. It's actually pretty bloody cool when you think about it. Because as a creator, wouldn't it make sense to, if, here's the thing, like an area that's close and passionate to my heart, right, which is training and courses and materials, right? A lot of people have gone to networks like Udemy and those sorts of, nothing wrong with any of them. They're only doing business because that's the way business was done, right? Imagine if rather than Udemy taking the biggest chunk of the revenues, right, the creators got the fastest, like the biggest chunk, as they should, because they're the people who create, run the course, manage the communities, and the people who make it all happen get paid a service fee, and they're happy for the service fee, right? It's like a credit card fee or something like that, right? Just to make transactions happen and occur. And you say, well, Ed, that's all very well and good, but how does everybody make money? Well, this is the point. It's a much more, dare I say it, and it's hilarious given the Silicon Valley libertarians that are very into Web3, is it is an opportunity for creators to get paid, and that is really fascinating to me. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if you were paid to study the creator's work as well? Right? And I know this is mind-twisting stuff. Like, I looked at it, and this is where I went, Grandpa, kids, get off my lawn. Right? I would totally, if you're listening to me right now and having those sort of reactions, I 100% agree with you. I get it. I totally get it. However, right, I've realized that there's more to the story, and this is why I thought this is why I chose it, because I keep pulling the string and it keeps getting really interesting. So let's keep going on my story. So what am I thinking? So I'm thinking a couple of principles for my micro niche, right? These are the couple of principles. So let's go back to my notes here, right? So what if I could create a membership using Web3 where the creators are paid the vast majority of the money? So in the old days, let's talk about this in, literally in our world and my world, right? So imagine that you created a program, and we're going to talk about reticular activation system because an old friend, Neil Strauss, is doing exactly this. Literally heard it on a podcast yesterday. So it's amazing when you listen to various things. So my idea was, what if you have, if people pay your membership, but they actually get an asset, the membership becomes a asset, right? Their membership, so the membership is restricted. So it's like, what would happen if I collided, and you all know from literally the first day of 1,000 true fans. I've been talking about, you get 1,000 people to pay you $100 a month, you've got a $100,000 business. You've got a living. You can pay your taxes and you're doing a living, right? Well, in Web 3.0, oh my God, Web 3 world, if if you have each one of those memberships has value, right? And if you leave a membership program in Web 2 world, well, you just leave it. That's it. Your money's gone. That's it. But what if that money is an asset? What if that membership is an asset? It's a token, and there are other people who want to get in to buy this, and they want to get into that membership, but they can't because it's full. What does that mean when somebody wants to sell their membership? Now, I'm deliberately trying to avoid all the Web3 technology terms that make this happen. But isn't that intriguing? Like, isn't that fascinating? Like, you could create a membership of people around a particular type of community. So they could be interested in product creation. They could be, indeed, it could be a community of, I don't know, guitar players who want to teach, right? Who want to teach and put up courses. What if they were part of this? And there's a term for this. Again, I'm staying out of the terms for this, but this is I don't know how to do this, but it is possible. Like, I've seen it doing. Like, our good friend of the program and the challenge all those years, Neil Strauss, author of The Game and many other amazing books, and a great information marketer in his own right and course creator in his own right, is doing a project called the Writer's Room, which is where people have a membership, if you will, but they also have a token, right? Which is, so they have the book will be done as an NFT, a non-fungible token. And so people will be working on the book, and they'll be putting the whole thing together as a community. They'll have various licensing abilities to be able to resell and do all those sorts of things. So it's all of a sudden, see, look at that. What if the only people who could sell your product as an affiliate were token holders, members of your particular network? All of a sudden, this starts to get real interesting. But then, here's the piece de resistance, right? This is the interesting thing. What would happen if students were able to earn money by learning and contributing into a community? What if that was possible? Now, I know you'll get off my lawn. This is ridiculous. This is all phantom money. This is ridiculous. This is the biggest Ponzi scheme I have ever heard of in my entire life. I get you. I hear you. Honestly, that was my thinking. It truly was, right? Until I read a great quote, and I think it was actually, it was Naval. I recommended a podcast which I thought had an excellent plain English example of all this. It was Tim Ferriss, Chris Dixon, and Naval Ravikant. I think Naval said in this interview, and it really struck home with me, let's face it, each generation rebels against the previous generation's Ponzi scheme and comes up with their new one, right? And if you think about it, for me, it was the dot-com boom, right? Just the same sort of bubble for the boomers. It was, greed is good. Wall Street, 87, 86, right? Every generation, for the generation before that, it was the minerals boom of the 70s, right? There's always been a wealth creation opportunity that's been attached to a generation. There's always, throughout history, right? And this generation in particular, and this is another thing which is sort of motivating me a lot, because, my girls are all Gen Z. This is the first generation that's worse off. Like, I was the last of the that was better off than their parents. That's nuts. That is nuts to me. Right? What are we doing? right? That, literally the prospects for my girls are way worse than I had them. It's the facts, right? It doesn't matter which way you want to look at it. And that really that gets up my goat, something chronic. So this is where I'm thinking. So for those of you who are following along with the EPM scorecard here, is so my micro niche is going to be community building and memberships on Web3. I could make way more money, I suspect, if I did, hey, how to mint NFTs and make money with NFTs. Because that's the super hot, that's getting all the hot, woof, 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 the hot flames. As I want to do, as Ryan Dice tells me all the time, that's cool and I could definitely make more money that way. But for me, because if I'm going to do this, I want to think about what's next. I've always been that way. So for me, it's how do you build Web3 communities and memberships so that every member of that community is getting paid? Because, one of the thing, and again, it sounds totally whack job. There's no question about it. It sounds totally whack job. Is that in the future, people will make money by playing games, by studying, by doing these core activities. And thank goodness that's the case. Because let me tell you, right, a lot of the more traditional ways, and you think, well, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Well, imagine if I teleported back, not that long, to 1970, and I said, hey, in 2020, every single person will be working from home and they'll be working on this device called a computer and they'll be able to do video calls. And they're saying, you're in the Jetsons. The Jetsons are the only place to do that. I'm telling you, every generation is the same way. Right. So that is interesting. So that's my micro niche. Now, so it's community and membership building using Web3 technologies. Okay. Here's the thing. I have no idea how that's going to happen. Like literally, let me tell you folks, no idea. Right? I've just seen enough examples, and as I say, good old dear mate Neil Strauss jumped in at exactly the right time with his writing room project, because Neil and I think very similarly. So I'm excited. So that's my micro niche, right? So I've determined that. So let's keep going. Let's keep going through our EPM journey. Look at that. Major inspiration, Tim Ferriss, Naval, Chris Dixon podcast. Definitely, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, what the heck has Ed done? Definitely have a look at that. I've put here, I could also do NFTs for creatives. There's no question that's a more immediate money maker, I think, but it doesn't excite me as much, right? I still think I can hit mission accomplished doing it my way. And why am I so confident about that? Well, because I went from milestone 2 to milestone 3. And in milestone 3, there's 7 criteria that you have to judge your market by. Oops, let's go to the thing here. There's 7 criteria which you need to judge your market by. And so I went through and looked at each of those 7 criteria and just went, okay, how do we go? And you can see here, is my criteria specific enough? I think it is. Have I had acknowledgement of that? No. Although I would argue that Neil Strauss doing the writer's room was exactly the sort of project that I thought, ooh, okay, this is definitely in this area. Criteria 2, who are they? Web3 community creators, people who create NFTs and actually want them to be worth something. Because if there's one thing I'm learning that is absolutely vital to Web3 is communities. Guess what? We've done a little bit in building communities over the last couple of decades. So even though this is a completely new area to me, I've still got stuff I can draw on, right? Which is great because here's the thing: creating a tribe, building a community is that the fundamentals of that haven't changed since the Egyptians, right? So yes, the technology and where they gather has changed. You know, Web 3.0, Web 3, I'll never, oh, I will get it eventually, is all Discord and Reddit and all that. Like the places change, but the ways to do community. Criteria 3 was I was very comfortable. Criteria 4, I believe so. Criteria 5, yes. Criteria 6, for sure. You know, might only need 10 initially. Like, is there a big enough market? And it's really uh, like, here's the thing. I think I could hit mission accomplished with EPM if I just had 10 people who were interested in this with me, right? So, because just wait for the kicker, right? Rules of community don't change because of medium. That's what criteria 7. Do I think I've got something to offer? And the answer is yes, because I'm pretty good at it. Um, Now, something that happens to me, and I want to illustrate this, and this is some of the cool things about pen and paper. Have you noticed I've written here thought over this side, right? So, this is what, see, it's NFT plus community plus 1,000 true fans. Create a living online for the digital first generation. So for my kids, my daughters, you know, would they be able to make a living doing and working and contributing in a Web3 environment? It is fascinating. You know, and I was there in 1994. Like when you explain the internet to people in 94, people had the same reaction, right? They were like, "What is this stuff?" The only reason I was involved so early in the internet was because of the fact that I had to. I was working in publishing and had to learn how to transfer massive 1 megabyte photo files from Sydney to Perth, which cost $100,000, by the way, a month, right, to have that bandwidth on the internet, or what was TCP/IP protocol back then, right? So I've seen it all before, right? It's all the things that I've seen, all the disbelief, all of the, this is ridiculous, this makes no sense. I've seen it all before, right? And so this is really interesting. So here we go. Milestone 4 is about describing what type of program are you going to create? One to one, one to few, or one to many? Well, there's no way I'm going to do one to one, because that's just not my style, right? So, but I'm thinking I'm going to do it one to few because I want to keep it relatively small, figure out how it's all working, right? Because I'm sort of one chapter ahead. Like, make no mistake, right? I've got a lot of background in community building, a lot of background in information products and marketing and creating communities and figuring out how to populate those communities. But all the tech, all the stuff to make it happen, right? I've been able to see enough to realize, yes, it is possible, right? And yes, like the protocols, the stuff that's required to build this sort of stuff is out there. And so all of a sudden, I started to think, hey, well, what if I did, what if I did some, if I absolutely went the whole hog and said, well, what if I like create, so the members, like, so you have a NFT, non-fungible token, for each of those one to few members. So they actually buy it, right, using Ethereum. And you're saying, Ed, that's actually quite a complex thing to do at this time of night. And the answer is, you're absolutely right, as I'm learning. There are only 10 million, like, for all the heat and light of Bitcoin and all these sorts of things, there are only 10 million Ethereum wallets out there, right? 10 million, it's tiny, right? In the context of things. But here's the thing, I thought, wow, like for the people that I want to work with on this project, then what a great filter. Because if they can't get a wallet up, then they certainly can't get anything else going. But then I thought, hang on a second. Well, if this is truly, if I was truly doing this, then wouldn't I auction it on a platform called OpenSea, which is where people trade their NFTs? So we publish that, like, for people to become members, they bid on an auction. So the market will set the value of this membership. That's intriguing, right? That's really intriguing. And then, because it's limited, right? If people want to get into this membership, there's going to be value, because anything that we create inside that membership, and this is where it gets really weird, people, anything that we create is owned by the collective, right? So the course that we create, anybody that owns a token can be part of that, like can license that course and can sell it. They can use it for their own materials, right? So it becomes a revenue generator. It's very intriguing. So these are some of the things that I'm thinking, and this is where I got to in week 1 of EPM. So what are the challenge like? So here's the thing that I'm doing, right? And this is for those of you who are doing EPM with me. Here's an advantage I have because I've worked with EPM. I've sold it over the years. I've literally used it to create a course years ago, right? I know the process, even though there's a lot of new stuff this year. I trust the process. I don't know what my course is yet, and that's fine, right? I don't know because there's an amazing module coming up talking about how to design a course, right? I sort of have a fluffy objective in mind, which is what happens if you can create a membership community that has value for the community members, right? It's an asset for the community members. Like if they're a member, it's actually an asset in every sense of that word. And then what happens if students can build an asset while studying, actually earn money while studying? That's the intriguing string that I'm pulling. And I've got to say, I heard Tim Ferriss talking about that in this podcast. He hasn't been as excited about something for a long time, and I've got to say, I've been turned on my head on it. I really have. It's an exciting opportunity. I don't want to get on my high. Look, whatever your politics, whatever your, I think you guys probably know I lean a little bit more left than your average entrepreneur, but it doesn't matter, right? What I just see, I look at what our 19, 20-year-olds, what their prospects are like, and it's not great, right? And this could be their .com, and make no mistake, people are going to lose their pants on NFTs, just like people lost their pants in the .com boom, right? People lost stacks, but and I think this was on that Tim Ferriss podcast, Naval said, what did that create? It created Facebook, it created YouTube, it created Instagram, it created all the social networks, it created Uber, it created, right, all of these things which became part of that. There was a massive crash associated with it, and we will see that here. We'll see multiple big crashes, right? Just as we did with the internet, just as we did with television, just as we did with the automobile industry in the 1930s, where we went from thousands of manufacturers to eventually the big three in the United States. What intrigues me about this, though, and it tickles my little lefty heart, especially because so many capitalists are so excited about it, is that it's impossible for somebody using Web3 technology to be a owner, because the rules are written in an app. Like all the things that I'm talking about here effectively are encoded in an app, in a smart, what they call a smart contract. And the computer executes on that smart contract, right? Without fear or favor. Like it distributes the money and the assets of that without anybody having to do it or think about it. Where do we run into problems? Where do we run into problems with affiliate payments? Where do we run into problems with all these things? It's when human beings and greed gets involved. Removes it out of the equation, right? This is, you've probably heard with Bitcoin where people are saying, one of the things about Bitcoin is it enables, or the blockchain, it enables for two people who don't know each other to do a trusted transaction. The entire banking industry is there because of the fact that human beings can't trust each other and need a third party. This is fascinating stuff, folks. I'm really excited about it. I am going to be continuing on this thread. And as always, I'll be broadcasting each week and give you my updates. This week we've got milestones 5 that we have to do with EPM, with the run up. I'm doing a lot more work because I have to get my head around this stuff. I mentioned that I'm doing Operation Money Suck with this whole thing, trying to figure out just how to become knowledgeable in this market in a short period of time. And the more I see, the more I'm excited about it. I know. And being my age, right? You can see all the, I can see all the, all these NFTs that are being created, and just like everything in history, a few of them will be amazing, and a whole bunch of them will not. Right? The vast majority will not. But we shouldn't let that get in the way of, this is a new way for people to work together and create virtual companies. So imagine if you were imagine an Instagram. And Instagram will always be Instagram. I'm not calling on the death of Instagram. That's a bit silly, right? But imagine a photography collective where rather than being owned by a central body, the Instagram, right, the decentralized network, the underlying technology which allows the computing to be decentralized, and for Instagram to run across the globe on literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of computers in a decentralized way, allows the photographers to get 95% of the ad revenue associated with that network, right? And here's the thing. And before, why was that so hard? Well, because that's what a record company does, right? What's a record company do? What does Spotify do? They're glorified money distribution networks, right? They take in fees from people who want to listen to music, and they then distribute those in the terms of royalties, right? And they have thousands of people and legal and all this sort of stuff. Like the entire industry is built around this. Well, guess what? Now we've got if you've got this particular token, you're entitled to this percentage. And when we do a distribution in each month, it's just automatically handled and distributed, right? It's pretty interesting. Really, really interesting stuff. It changes what's possible, because the reasons that cooperatives and those sorts of arrangements run into problems is because the rules aren't clear, the rules can be changed, and most importantly, the humans are administering the rules, which means human nature gets involved, right? There's no trust there. So this is very interesting. Gang, I'm a bit pumped about it, as you can tell. Can't wait but let's not lose sight of while I'm here. I'm not here to become a evangelist of Web3. I'm here to build a course over the course of November and December and launch it in January in a field I don't know. And that's why we're gathered, right? So, I've got a lot of work to do. The one thing that I ran into that was an issue for me this week is that I was naughty and I did not schedule my critical focus time for this project, right? I thought, I've got plenty of time, right? And then, of course, things happen and stuff happens. So I've learnt from my own, I'm the plumber with the leaky taps. So for this upcoming week, I will make sure that I've got 5 50-minute things, periods of time locked in right there, scheduled. They're absolutely put in. So it's very, 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 very important. So, super excited about it. And I will speak to you all same bat time, same bat channel next week. Thanks for joining me if you join us live. Thrilled to see you and thanks to participate. And looking forward, we'll be launching a Discord on this because Discord is sort of ground zero for a lot of these communities. So we'll be experiencing it for ourselves. All right, gang, with that, thank you very much. Have a great week ahead. And I'll speak to you next week. Ciao for now.